What's going on, guys? I wanted to post a follow-up video, or rather part 2 video, to the HDR gaming settings video that I posted earlier about the LG C10 OLED, and in particular to the PS4 Pro. In that video, I unfortunately ran out of time trying to address everything I wanted to talk about, as YouTube is limiting my uploads to 15 minutes for some reason. If anybody knows why that is, please let me know down in the comments section below, as I would like to try and find a workaround for this, or just to figure out why. But as I speculated earlier, it is probably due to the fact that I'm a very small channel with a very limited number of subscribers, and I am also not monetized. So to start off this video, I wanted to address how to properly calibrate the HDR settings under the PS4 Pro settings itself. So we're going to head to the settings here, and we're going to go down to sound and screen, go to the video output settings, and go down to adjust HDR. So I want to ask a question to any experienced CX or LG OLED owner out there about whether to have dynamic tone mapping off or HGIG enabled for this calibration screen here. I have been doing it with dynamic tone mapping off and then later enabling HGIG, but I'm not 100% sure if this is correct. But my interpretation of this screen here is to basically address how your display is tone mapping and how to get all the information without clipping details. So for demonstration purposes, we're going to go with dynamic tone mapping off, which, like I said, is the way that I've been calibrating it. So as you can see here, it says to press the left and right buttons to adjust the brightness until the logo is almost invisible. So I'm going to go all the way to the left here, and we're going to go up until that logo disappears. So that logo has just disappeared right there, and we are going to go back one click. And I hope this is coming up on camera, but that logo is just barely visible, and this is correct. Let's go to the next screen here. We're going to do the same exact thing, which that logo has become invisible. We're going to go back one click, and we're going to go ahead and hit next. Sorry, I hit the wrong button there. Now, this is probably where you guys aren't going to be able to see the logo due to my camera's limited dynamic range and it liking to crush shadow details and black levels. So I will bring this logo to where you guys can at least see it, and we're going to go down until it disappears, which it has just disappeared, and that is as far as the slider will let me go. So we're going to go one click above, and then we're going to be done. It's just as simple as that. Now, I am pretty sure that that HDR adjustment does not affect many games out there. So just to show you my video output settings here, I am running this in 4K resolution, 60 Hertz. That is the max that the PS4 and PS4 Pro allow. Color format is in RGB. HDR is supported, and there is all of our refresh rate frequencies that are available. So what we're going to go do now is jump into Red Dead Redemption. That way I can go over how the HGIG mode and dynamic tone mapping modes affect the HDR calibration in that game. So bear with me a minute while I boot this up. I will probably pause the video and come back later once it is loaded up and ready to go. Okay, so now that we have Red Dead Redemption 2 pulled up here, I want to jump into the settings within this game. So we are going to go under display and go to HDR calibration. And I hope that my camera is able to pick up these differences here. But the main point I want to go over is that this peak brightness slider here does not work properly without HGIG enabled. As you can see here, we can go all the way up to about 3800 on the peak brightness slider before that Rockstar logo disappears, which is not correct as it is blowing out all that highlight detail there. So if we go ahead and we switch this to HGIG mode, what we are going to see is that slider there working correctly. So now you can see that that Rockstar logo is no longer visible. If I go down to 700, it does come back to being visible. But let's just start off at the minimum of 500 peak brightness and work our way up. And as you can see there, hopefully, it disappears between 700 and 800. I have chosen to use paperweight value of 150, and I know that my camera is crushing the hell out of these black levels here, but I will try and demonstrate that those black levels in that Rockstar logo is actually visible and present. And sorry for my camera catching some flickering effect going on. That has probably something to do with the refresh rate of the display. But as you can see here, those black levels are not crushed like you are seeing back here when the phone is on the tripod. But we are more concerned here about the specular highlight detail. Hopefully my camera is fairly centered here. But let's go back into the dynamic tone mapping settings, and I want you to try and pay attention to how this affects the highlight detail, or the detail back in these hills and the clouds here. So if I switch it to off, you are going to see that I am losing detail, especially in this hillside here. We'll switch HGIG back on. It does take a second for it to come into full effect, but I have actually gotten more detail back in that hillside. With dynamic tone mapping on, it is almost like a mix between HGIG and off, but the image is brighter. Now, I personally do like dynamic tone mapping, but it does come at a cost of specular highlight detail, which I will try to show you in game here in a minute. That's if I have time. But I do believe that the HGIG mode is definitely helping this game here, and I am not sure if Red Dead Redemption 2 actually supports it, but from what I am seeing in this instance it is actually working and does seem to support it. So let's go ahead and back out of here and go back to in-game. And unfortunately, the sun is setting. So it's going to be very hard for me to demonstrate this. So give me a second, I'll be right back, and I'm going to try and change the time of day to be somewhere in the middle of the day. That way the sun is in the sky. So I'll be right back again. So now that we got a better time of day, let's jump into the differences between the HGIG and dynamic tone mapping and dynamic tone mapping off settings actually in game. So we are currently in HGIG right now, and if I switch this to off, you kind of see that sun there lose a little bit of detail and definition around it. If I turn dynamic tone mapping on, it kind of blows out that sun to where it just, I mean, it is still visible, but it is less visible than the HGIG mode. So those are the main differences here between the modes. Now, dynamic tone mapping, like I said in my previous video, makes the image a lot brighter, but it does come at a slight cost. Again, here are the differences. If I turn it off, there is a slight difference between the two, and it is more evident in person. So what I personally find is that the HGIG is the best mode for maintaining all the detail that the creators intended you to see. So I hope this video helped anybody out there trying to figure out what these differences are and what is the best mode to use. And I want to thank you guys for watching. As always, please like, comment, subscribe if you want to see future content regarding the LG C10. And I hope to get an answer on whether or not to have HGIG enabled or disabled when doing that calibration in the PS4 HDR settings. So again, thank you, and until next time, you guys take it easy, stay safe out there, and peace.